Very good evening to all our mentorship traders. We are on the 30th of October 2021. It's a Saturday evening, 8 p.m. Indian Standard Time. We generally do these sessions on Fridays, but thank you for shifting it one day. I've not been keeping well, and that's why I was not able to share Thursday's market view also. Today, relatively better. Thank you for the support. Let's talk about the index. Let's look at how the markets played out, and then we'll discuss about the stocks like we always do. Now, I was not well for almost 2 days, 2.5 days, and yes, it was not so well for the markets too. I think the last video which I had made, I was talking about this particular red bar, either a breakout above this level or a follow through breakdown could lead to a retest of 18K, and so it did retest the 18K. This zone was holding on fairly okay. We don't need this volume profile as of now. This zone was holding okay during this period, but this time it just did manage to cut through it. And as per the recent close, we have a market which is quite a significant bit below the 18K mark. In fact, the psychological 18K mark for the second time didn't manage to support at all. Volume profile had a point of control around 17,850. We did see a bit of volatility up here, down, up, and kind of two bars. But then it kind of settled towards that 17,680, 660 kind of levels. Not a bad zone. This one, this particular level is not a bad zone. Couple of reasons. Volume wise, if we look at the volume profile, this is the second longest, I would say, volume profile bar that we can notice. In the past, we've got these highs, this high, this high, this low, and now this low. So this zone, what does it land up to? It's around 17,650, 17,750. Let's write this down so that we remember this. 17,650, 17,750. On the right hand side, I'll ask probably not inside, below, bottom. Yeah. 7650, 750 are the short term supports. That's where the index is hovering. There was a pretty decent volumes, pretty strong volumes down here, which kind of showed the panic in the selling, or should I say, the urge to sell out, get out of the market. Pretty high volumes happening. So can we have a short-term bottom here? Let's see. Next week will be interesting. We have some levels down over here. This is a very, very interesting level for the market. This is around 17,350, 450. This is not a bad zone. Multiple times highs and lows have been made here. One thing we can confirm, though, what I was talking about in my last video, was are we heading towards a multi-legged correction, leg one, bounce back, and the next leg. Of course, we are already en route of that, and I generally do not do Fibonacci retracements per se, so much for the levels of targets and all, but if we look at it just for a bit, okay, this is not bad at all. So 127.2 has been taken care of. So 161.8 lies right there, 17,686. It's right down here. The 261.8 is quite a bit of extension, which I hope the market does not take us all the way down there. But this turns out to be a pretty good zone, 650, 750. As we are doing this discussion, let me quickly take a look at what was the US markets. Was marginally positive. This SGX 64 points up at 814. So, okay, let's go back to the daily charts, and we have a correction in our hands. A couple of levels have been taken care of. So let's see whether we have a short-term bounce back from this level. Do not hurry to add on positions. Do not think that Fibonacci has confluenced with volumes and price and let's not jump into conclusions. In fact, I would rather wait because the Heiken-Ashi charts are not suggesting any kind of consolidation as of now. So I will wait for a bit of confirmations coming in from that side. 655, 750 is the first level, and the next one was 350, 450. This is also not bad. In fact, we can see how the VWAP levels are coming close to this zone. So markets are in a short-term downtrend, giving us a correction from the big move that we experienced for the last multiple months. So we should allow it to ease off. Supports are there, strong supports are there. It's just whether they hold, and if they hold, can we participate in the following bounce. Let's go to the usual RRG graph. And first and foremost, let's take a look at what was the biggest damage in terms of sectors over the last 1 week. All red, energy down 4%, private banks, bank Nifty down 3%, and the least amount of damage we see is within the PSU banks. But overall, all the sectors have closed negative, not a big surprise. From a 3 month perspective, if we take a look at the tails, we have the reality, which is in the leading sector. It's got a lot of relative strength. It's outperformed the index by a big margin, and it's also picking up momentum. There's not much scope, not much room. So a strong sector should be looked to bought into in a dip. Media is too volatile. Energy, though, was the biggest loser, but still it's in a leading sector. This is a good sign. A sector which is in the leading quadrant and which has lost some grounds is actually a good counter, a good pocket for buy on a dip. So if we take a look at the energy stocks, I think I have clubbed them together. Where am I? Yes, oil and gas and power stocks, I've clubbed them. So if we take a look at Reliance, that can be an interesting one. I'll just quickly take a look at the Heiken-Ashis also, as I just quickly click through a few of these names. ONGC and the OMCs. ONGC is not a bad, it's a doji on the Japanese candlestick, so can take some little bit of time to consolidate. BPCL is okay, this is not bad. It has hit its previous lows now throughout correction. So that's BPCL. HPCL not so much, and IOC also kind of a spinning top doji. So it'll be interesting to see whether this kind of strength from energy holds. Consumer durables is it's just not going anywhere. It's just struggling down there. But the important sector, which I personally also like, is the improving, because these are the ones which has much more headroom. So we have auto picking up momentum. PSU Bank, we just saw, is a gainer. Private banks is also there. Bank Nifty, we've seen how beautifully it has outperformed recently. iBank. So banks, of course, are an important pocket. We all understand. Take a quick look at the banking stocks, the banks, and I'll take a look at Axis Bank. Now this stock corrected quite sharp. Stay away from it for the time being. Let it consolidate. Bank Baroda and the PNB, the SBI are the ones which outperformed really well this time. Surprise, surprise, but they did. So that's one. HDFC Bank, another important counter. Can wait a little bit. iBank is holding pretty well. This stock is coming off and can be bought into supports. Kotak Bank also had a great run, 3 days of correction. Can be looked into. State Bank of India. I'm not looking into Bandhans and AU banks right now. I'm looking at the names which will matter, because the market has corrected and we need stocks that matter to the markets and the index for a bounce. SBI is also, it's got very good relative strength. Auto, I'll quickly take a look at auto and then we can move ahead with our usual talks on stocks. Um, the auto names that I have here, amongst the two-wheelers, Bajaj Auto, difficult, struggling. Hero Motoco, This guy has started to show some early signs of consolidation. Interesting because it has come down to its August lows. The size of the candles has started to drop. Many spinning tops, lower shadows, upper shadows. It was already underperforming. It was already in a downtrend. Contrarian traders might be interested. Short-term contrarian traders might find this an interesting counter going forward. TVS Motors is a pocket of strength, definite pockets of strength. And I would take a look at Eicher Motors now. Eicher Motors also very, very early signs of consolidation. No divergence yet, but again, similar story like Hero MotoCo. Amongst the two-wheelers, if you want to play contra, take a look at Hero and Eicher Motors. Four-wheelers, Maruti is holding well. It's holding pretty good. We can see the shadows on the Icons. It's holding well. We can probably see a beautiful left shoulder head, right shoulder kind of a pattern, but not much trend before that. So I will not qualify this straight away as a head and shoulder pattern. Tata Motors, how can anyone not talk about? Now this is the breakout level, and the stock has not seen much of a correction. You can see this as a descending triangle or more like a flag or whatever, but this is definitely a breakout level important for the stock. So overall, and Maruti, uh, there you go. So we spoke about Maruti, sorry, M&M, my mistake. M&M is an interesting guy. Is a definite interesting guy because it has entered the 1334 zone. The bars have started to drop. The shadows have started to come up in the Icons. A little bit of range expansion on Friday, which is okay. But I think a move above these highs, which is close to that 903, 904, can be interesting. We're talking about sectors which are in the improving quadrant. The auto, the banks are in the improving quadrant. So these are the stocks, these are the sectors which can participate and which should ideally participate in the bounce back. IT has come off a little bit, has gone to the weakening, but we know this is an important pocket. Might wait a little bit to see a bounce back. Pharma, metal, and FMCG. Sadly, FMCG drops back. So this is disappointing. Amongst pharma and metals, especially pharma, as you can see, has lost all its relative strength. It has lost all the grounds as per the horizontal axis. It has now scope to gain momentum, which was the case few weeks back when we had spoken about auto down here, if you remember, a month and a half, a month back. So contra players, a slightly medium to long-term perspective, you might do good if you focus a little bit on pharmaceutical names. Um, I just keep a look at few of them. Little volatile stocks like Dr. Reddy and DVs and all had seen some bit of movement, but stocks which I would personally prefer if they kind of outperforms. DVs definitely is one of them. Cipla was struggling and it's still struggling at its important zones. If it breaks down, that is bad news for the stock. Sun Pharma and DV's Lab are two decent counters. Sun Pharma needs a little bit of support to kick in. Lupin, Biocon, Aurobindo, I think is not so good. So need to be very stock specific. DVs, Sun Pharma are the ones which are standing out. We can take a look at Alchem also, but it will be an interesting pocket because of this. Because of this. Overall, let's wrap it up. Um, the index finally gives us a correction. Um, Short-term correction which is needed, and it is a little bit more than a short-term correction because it is multi-legged and the severity of the fall was quite evident. Short-term support 650, 750, that's exactly where we are. We are probably looking at a bit of a short-term bounce back, then a little bit of more selling, and the stock might probably try to consolidate here. If it does, we should get a bounce. On the bounce, there's no doubt psychological 18K and a little above that is going to act as a resistance. Downtrends are always more volatile than uptrends. We'll remember this all the time. And so the range of the price of the stocks will be longer, larger, wider. Volatility will be higher. So whatever trades you do not try to catch a trade with a very, very small stop loss. The chances of that getting hit is very high. So whatever positions you take, either make sure it's very short-term trade or it's slightly medium to long-term in nature. So, okay, with that, I think I've managed well without any disturbance from my end. So let's move ahead. And now let's talk about the stocks and trading investment opportunities that we are looking at next week.